Hello people, my name is Tola Alabi and you're welcome to Pro Up Masterclass. And in today's class, I'm going to be talking to you about being yourself, about why it's important to have the courage to be yourself. Now, in business, there is something called an unfair advantage. And when I consult for my clients, when we go through our strategy session, and I'm asking them questions about their brand so that we can form a personality and I can get to understand the brand better. A lot of times I ask them, what is your unfair advantage? This business you're starting, what's your unfair advantage? And it's interesting to sit back and look at a lot of people take time to think of what their unfair advantage is. And a lot of people get their unfair advantage from without, from the outside. So they attribute their unfair advantage to something they've acquired, something they've spent money on. So it might be, my unfair advantage is my education. I went to this prestigious university. My unfair advantage is we have this big, great office space. So the unfair advantage most of the time is attributed to something on the outside. But it's amazing how very few people look within for their unfair advantage. And a lot of times your unfair advantage is something within. It's something you couldn't have bought. It's something that came with you by default, part of your story. It might not have come by birth, but it's a situation that just happened to you that nobody else can go out and buy. That's your unfair advantage a lot of times. That's something that cannot be replicated by your competitors. Your unfair advantage is something you possess naturally. That is the most unfair advantage a business or a brand could have. But it's amazing how many people try to cover up their unfair advantage. They're insecure about that thing that is meant to be an unfair advantage to them or for them in their business. So they cover it up. We as people try a lot to fit in rather than to stand out. We do it subconsciously. From the moment we were born, the message has always been fit in. Try to fit in. No matter how much we campaign for, I want to stand out, what goes on around us tells us to try to fit in from the moment we were born. So we go to schools and we are told to wear uniforms like the other people and show up at a particular time like the other people and go for lunch at a particular time like every other person and close at a particular time like every other person so that we can fit in. But the truth is that we were all created to stand out. And to stand out effectively, you must celebrate who you are. And sometimes you must be able to celebrate even those things that we are not comfortable with because other people do not possess them. And I'll give you this example. It's a personal example. Now, people that know me well, people that have seen me, know that I have a lot of gray hair. Now, at my age, I shouldn't be having this much gray hair, but I started having premature graying at about 20. Before I got into the university, I started having strands of gray. And at first, I was indifferent about it. I was kind of excited about it when I started seeing gray hair. I thought it made me unique. But people started to have awkward statements. Look at me awkwardly and make statements like, why do you have gray hair? And I could see the look in their eyes, the look in their face, the look of discomfort as why does this young guy have gray strands coming out already? So I started to feel uncomfortable about that which came naturally to me. And you know what? The next step I took was to try to cover it up. So I started to dye my hair very early. Whenever I went to the barber, I told them, apply dye on my hair, because it was very important for me to cover up the gray hair so that I could fit in to society. And when I started working as a designer and a brand consultant, you see, the insecurity was so deep that I was dyeing my hair every single week. Every time I went to the barber, I would dye my hair. And I was going to the barber every week or every 2 weeks, and I would dye my hair. And sometimes I would do it at home myself or ask my wife to do it for me. But one thing happened. I realized that when I was dyeing my hair, it came as a result of I was tired of going to my clients and having meetings with people about branding projects. And before we started the meeting, they would start talking about, oh, your hair, why do you have so much gray hair? And they would focus on my hair. And I would get uncomfortable because I just wanted to talk about the project. And they would sense my discomfort. And they would say, okay, this guy is feeling uncomfortable, let's talk about the project. Then I'll get into talking with them and having a sales pitch and talking about what I could do for them. But you know, when I realized, look, I can't keep dyeing my hair. And one of the things that made me stop dyeing my hair was the fact that I realized it was destroying the quality of my hair. It was destroying my hair. My hair started getting brown and started breaking. And so I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just going to go gray and let people say what they want to say. So I started having meetings with my clients. And again, they started talking about my hair. But instead of getting uncomfortable, I engaged with them in the conversation about my hair. And I told them my story about how I started having premature graying at the age of 20 and how I've decided to just celebrate it. And I realized that most of them were engaged with me when I was talking with them about this thing that seemed like a shortcoming, and they would open up about things they were insecure too about, and things they were trying to cover up, and we would talk about this for like 15 minutes. And then they feel relaxed and they'll say, you know what, let's talk about this project now. And I realized that when it was time to talk about the project, I would only have to talk for a few minutes, maybe about 5 minutes, as opposed to talking for like 20 minutes to 30 minutes when I was still dyeing my hair. And they would say, you know what, Tola, it's all right. We trust you already. Because from talking about what I saw as what was unique about me and they could connect with me, we had connected on a personal level. So with that, I didn't need to do much effort to connect on a business level anymore. They just felt like, this guy has opened up to us on a personal level. I feel like he's my friend already. And then I realized, whoa, Tola, your hair has actually been an unfair advantage for you as a business person. These people are actually connecting with you because of your hair. And that's how a lot of us cover up our unfair advantage, because we are insecure about it. Your unfair advantage might be your gap teeth, might be your complexion, might be your height, might be the fact that you are balding. But I want to tell you that can be your unfair advantage. If you could just stop covering it up or trying to alter it, it might just be that thing that makes people connect with you and just say, whoa, this guy is so tall. I can connect with him. He feels my discomfort as a tall person too. Or this guy, whoa, he's short. But you know, I like his height because I can connect with him. There are so many people that I follow just because I can connect with something that is not the core of what they are doing. There's a man called Joseph Prince. I listen to him every day. He's like a mentor to me. He's a preacher from Singapore. But one thing about him that caught my attention was his accent, his Singaporean accent. I love the accent. His pronunciation of some things in English are not perfect, but that's exactly what I love about him, that imperfection, and that makes me listen to him. That is hard for any other person to replicate. That's unique to him. But you see, a lot of people will try to cover up those things. Your accent is unique to you. Don't try to cover it up. Don't try to change it. I remember when I was in Canada and I was in school, I was a bit ashamed of my Nigerian accent, to be honest with you, because it was an environment where everybody was speaking in a Canadian accent. And whenever I spoke, I could hear myself speak. It was like my voice echoed because my accent stood out. So I tried to speak like a Canadian. I tried to form that accent, and that just made me seem like a phony. I felt like a phony from the inside out. But there were these two brothers, and I'll never forget them, in my school in Canada. And those guys were unapologetic about their Nigerian accent. They spoke their Nigerian accent like they were in the middle of Lagos. They spoke pidgin English amongst white people. And they had a huge following, as in everybody wanted to be their friend. They were popular. And I actually had experiences when white people would say, "What does that mean? I want to be able to talk like that. How do you talk that way?" And they were not saying it in a condescending way. They were actually saying it in a way of admiration, because these guys were confident. They didn't try to change their accent. As a matter of fact, when people ask them, you know what, I can't hear what they are saying, they emphasize it the more in their Nigerian accent. And people love them in school. So you need to be yourself. There is a need to be yourself. Stop hiding who you are. That is your unfair advantage. Celebrate it. I would even go out to say, sometimes there are some things that seem like disadvantages in your life that end up being your unfair advantage. Don't hide them. We are very used to hiding things in our stories that we're kind of ashamed of, that seems like shortcomings and failures, not knowing that those are our unfair advantages. There's a preacher called, I can't remember her name, Joyce Meyer. And the unique thing about Joyce Meyer is her story. She was abused by her father very early on in her life, and it was no fault of hers. And she had to go through that abuse. And this is something that a lot of people would hide. But she came and put that story forward. And to be honest with you, I truly believe a lot of people connect with Joyce Meyer because of her story. They identify with her because of that thing that seemed like a disadvantage in her early years. So sometimes that thing that seems like such a stain to your life and seems like such a shortcoming in your life is something that God wants you to share. That's a story that not one of your competitors can replicate. It makes you special. So if there's anything you're going to get from this class today, is the fact that you should be yourself. There's only one of you, and that is your biggest unfair advantage.